Cold open.
I am. You
We
can
can get a
tell
restart. We can get a
no,
restart.
run with it. Nah, run with it. We're recording at 8 in the morning on a Saturday. You can tell we're getting old when we actually plan something to do that wasn't like getting breakfast. But welcome everybody to Life the Complete Story. I am Alex and this is Tyler. We are your hosts. Like we said, we are we apologize for being off for a couple weeks. It's been a wild couple weeks. So biggest thing is a pretty major death in the family. So that's why we were off. We had a lot of other stuff we were taking care of, and then trying to schedule when to record again because we were both quite busy these last 2 weeks.
And we were
Besides
smart.
that,
We were smart.
yeah,
We picked 8 in the morning, the
yeah.
day
So
before the episode goes out.
yes, we picked 8 in the morning on a Saturday. So this may be a shorter episode just because we still have stuff that we need to go do. So we squeeze this bad boy in. But today we're talking about the Percopsiforms. But before we do that, Tyler, what is our nature in the news for today?
So today, our nature of the news comes from National Geographic. We're talking about the spotted lanternfly. It is that time of year again for those of us
Yes,
in the northeastern United States, all the way to about Mississippi, all the way down to Tennessee-ish.
they've
You will
spread that
start,
far already.
you will start to see spotted lanternflies coming out. This isn't new. They've been around since 2014. But the question posed today is, should you still squash spotted lanternflies? Here's what to know. Basically, short answer. No, go for it. Like it's not gonna help much you squashing the 3 or 4 a day that you see, uh, because they're just that widespread. And yeah. Let's put up a picture of the spotted lanternfly. Brownish red wings with the spots on them, and then when they open up their wings, they have like a really bright red thorax.
Yeah, like a reddish yellow thorax.
So the issue is these guys feed on about 70 different plant species in the U.S. alone, which makes it an invasive species because it's causing harm upon some type of ecosystem. In this case, it's a bunch. Luckily, their favorite food is the tree of heaven, also an invasive species. We've talked about that on the show before, way
Yes,
back, like
yes.
episode 1 or 2.
Very towards the very beginning.
We talked about both these species, both those species, very early on in the show. Um, and they also feed on like native U.S. species, black walnut, a couple of different species of maple tree, and then on the plant side, like the non-woody plants, hops and grapevines, which we'll get to in a little bit. So the U.S. created the Spotted Lanternfly Research and Development Act a little while ago, which basically allows money to be granted to different research projects that relate to the reduction and mitigation of the spotted lanternfly. So how they work is they don't feed how normal insects feed. Like typically an insect will chew on the plant with some type of pincer or mandible or something like that. These guys have a needle like proboscis per se. It's not quite a proboscis, they're a little bit different. But
Yeah,
their mouth parts are needle like, so they will basically insert it into the xylem or the phloem of the plant. Those are the nutrient directing parts of the plants,
yeah.
and they will absorb it straight out of the plant, which kind of makes the plant sick in a way. And it does a lot of things that aren't just chewing on leaves. Kind of think of like a mosquito to a human, where it'll
Yes.
like and there's a lot of like diseases that can be transferred that way. But all hope is not lost. We have a couple species, native species, that have started to adapt and feed on spotted lanternflies. That was kind of the big issue we were having before. Is since they're invasive, nothing native knows what they are, so they're not eating them.
Yes.
Now we're getting to a point where okay, they've been around for 10 plus years. Native species are starting to say, "Oh, that's a food species." Most notably spine soldier bugs and Carolina mantises in terms of like the insect world. However, a couple different bird species like blue jays and cardinals as well as other insects and arachnids. Spiders, when they get caught in nets, they'll eat them, as well as like yellow jackets and ants. Probably feed on the carcasses of the dead lanternflies that you smash.
Yeah. So I know I had seen pretty early on the praying mantises had been eating them. So I knew that was going on, but I and the birds is relatively new,
Yeah,
which is
and
pretty cool.
one of the more recent areas of infection, we'll say, is the in the finger. This is kind of why all the attention has been drawn to them right now, is
Yeah.
because they have invaded the Finger Lakes in New York, which is a very big wine country in the Northeast.
Yes.
So we're losing a lot of money on them infecting, on them kind of destroying grape populations because they'll spread like different molds, yeah, black sooty mold, which is in itself hard to get rid of.
Yeah. Yeah. If you've ever seen a like a tree of heaven that's been covered in lanternflies, the bottom like few feet will be like a black color, and it's not supposed to be that color.
Yeah,
That's because of the spotted lanternflies.
they do that. They also, in terms of grapes and other like fruit bearing like species, they will reduce yield, quality, and sometimes even kill the plant, depending on
Yeah,
how much they siphon off.
yeah. If you get enough of them, and a small grapevine that's like a planted grapevine, maybe a little easier. Wild grapevines that just grow all over the place are a little more sturdy.
But that's all I have. I kind of went off the rails a little bit. Uh,
Yeah,
I did a deep dive on the article for once.
yeah,
But that's all I have. Alex, do you have anything else to add about
yeah. I mean,
lanternflies?
not really. It's pretty much the to answer the question of the title of the article. Yes, you should still squash them, but it's really not. It's not gonna do a lot. Doesn't hurt either. I know my favorite thing is watching everyone at the gas station ha- having their little mini game while they're pumping gas. They just go and squashing lanternflies
Yeah,
because
it's
for
more
some reason they
beneficial.
love gas pumps.
That's true. It's more beneficial to squash them in the instar or nymph form.
Yes, it, it's a little harder once they get to like the final instar because they get real speedy, but
Yeah,
then they can't um like they're not really siphoning as much off the plants.
yeah, but it's so much easier to squash them as an adult because they can't fly very well.
Yeah, they're pretty clumsy.
That's all
If
we
you
have.
get in front of them, they'll just
Yeah,
hop right into your foot.
yeah, but that's all we have for our nature in the news. We'll move on to a lesson, which Alex said is the Percopsiforms. And you might be getting excited, thinking, "Oh, Percopsiforms? That's where the perch are." Wrong. So, Alex, what's a Percopsiform today?
The A Percopsiform is a small order. It contains only about 10 extant species with 7 genera, 3 families. They're not real big either. They only grow about uh, 20 to 30 centimeters in length. Yeah, right over there.
I sneezed and my whole entire camera shook.
I saw that. That was a very violent sneeze. So they inhabit freshwater of North America dating all the way back to the late Cretaceous period. So they've been here for quite a while. They are grouped based off of similarities with their internal anatomy because they all appear very different on the outside. So a lot of them don't look the same, but they are a lot more similar than you think they are. And they have the common name of the trout perches. They are more closely related to cod and dory fish
Yeah,
than they are trout
so
or perches.
that's good naming on our part.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta love it.
With that, we'll go into our first family, Amblyopsidae. Yep. So these guys are known as cave fish, blind fish, or swamp fish. They live in darker environments, typically caves, springs, and swamps. They have a troglodytic lifestyle, which means they live in the caves, obviously. That has its own challenges, so they have adapted, as Alex has put up a picture. They lack functional eyes. They have remnants, vestigial eyes, and they lack pigmentation because they don't need it per se. Um, of the 200 species known as cave fish, only 6 are like Percopsiforms. Uh, they reach a max length about 11 centimeters, which would be roughly 5-ish inches, 6-ish inches. That sounds about right. Because two and a
Like
half centimeters is an inch.
4 to 5.
Yeah, sure,
Just over 4.
sure. They have chemoreceptors in their lateral line and throughout their body. Because they can't see, they rely on these chemical receptors to warn them of predators, any type
Mm.
of natural impedance. Uh, and they have a more efficient metabolism compared to other non-cave fish. I don't exactly know how. Um, I know I really did some good research here, but probably because they just lack a lot of systems that would divert energy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, cave habitat generally offers a poor food supply, so I think having that more efficient metabolism
Yeah, leads them
it's like
to
slows it down a little bit so they can survive longer between meals.
that checks out. However, these guys are vulnerable to changes in the environment. So any type of pollution or invasive species really kind of wrecks them since they don't have really scales to act as an armor against anything, and the chemoreceptors get destroyed by pollution.
That makes a lot of sense.
Alex, I'll pass it back over to you for Ampheroderidae.
Okay, so our other group for today is going to be the genus
Ampheroderos.
Ampherodus. Yeah. So these are the pirate perch. They they inhabit the coastal waters along the eastern United States, found towards the bottom of like warm, clear currents in the ocean. They are typically solitary, carnivorous, and nocturnal, consuming a lot of mosquito larvae, amphipods, glass shrimp, mealworms. There you go. Um, they are smaller fish, dragonflies, stonefly larvae, and earthworms. And they are only loosely related to the trout perch. I think it's just they're a little more closely related to them than anything else. And even then, it's loose at best.
They do kind of look like a perch.
Yeah,
That's about it.
a little bit. They're not. Their head's a little off, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They typically don't get real big, like 14 centimeters or 5.5 inches in length. Something that is cool is they may be the only known animal to exhibit a chemical camouflage or crypsis, which is
Yeah, how's that work?
I don't know. That is general. Okay, so is a chemical camouflage or crypsis that is generalized and effective among a wide number of potential prey species. So they must use it um
Is it
as
like
a
a
way.
smoke bomb?
That's almost what it feels like. Like the way they release it. Like that's literally all that they have on like is one sentence.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
That is kind of wild. Interesting. Interesting indeed. Yeah, it must be like the way a pheromone instead of releasing pheromones, they just kind of consistently release this whatever chemical it is, and it kind of like we were talking about those chemoreceptive lateral lines. It must be something that kind of disrupts that a little bit.
Wait,
Oh, did you find something?
ish. They exhibit chemical crypsis, making them undetectable to frogs and insects colonizing ponds. So they release an odor basically.
Yeah,
It makes them undetectable. Sure. I don't know. It's an olfactory response.
interesting. Interesting
This
indeed.
works. I really don't.
No.
That's so confusing. Good on them though.
Yeah, pretty neat.
Got anything else to add on the pirate perch?
that is all I've got to add for these guys. They're kind of neat, but nothing too crazy.
There is one more family, Percopsidae, but there's only two species. Uh, and there's not a whole bunch on them.
Oh, well, I mean, we can talk about them a little bit if you want to try.
Yeah. So these are the. Let me find them real quick. Percopsis. Yep, genus Percopsis. There's two species: the trout perch and the sand roller. Uh, and they are.
You're sharing. I'm like, why?
Oh, yeah, just steal it from me.
I was having a moment.
So the trout perch
No, I
itself,
don't want to say it.
Percopsis omiscomachus, is about 8 inches long. Um, Not really any like sexual dimorphism, and they're pretty silvery in appearance. They have a single dorsal fin as well as an adipose fin, so you can kind of see the adipose fin sticking up between the dorsal fin and the tail fin,
Yeah.
which helps them distinguish from the lookalikes, which to me it doesn't really look like either the lookalikes, uh, the yellow perch or the walleye. Definitely doesn't look like a walleye.
It's, I mean, maybe a fry.
Yeah, they have a forked caudal fin, and it is found in North America, Canada, North America from Canada and Alaska all the way to uh, Virginia, the Potomac River Basin, as well as the Great Lakes uh, and the Mississippi.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay, so they're also called the grounder or the sand minnow. That's why I was like, I don't know if I've ever actually seen these guys. I probably have. I just thought they were like any other minnow.
yeah. And the other species is the sand roller, which is only found in the Columbia River drainage. They live about 6 years in the sandy, slow-moving streams. That's all I have.
Yeah, there's really there's not much about these guys that I mean, it kind of makes sense because I don't know how much the Columbia River has been studied compared to a lot of the eastern United States, just because it hasn't been inhabited near as long,
Yeah,
relatively.
yeah. But
Pretty
we
cool.
will go into our recurring segments. I'll start. I'll kick us off. We got our amazing species for the day. Today we were talking about Spioplatyrinus pulsoni, which is a species of cavefish. It is the Alabama cavefish. These guys are critically endangered. They are found in a single cave system. I got you.
That's I found one. It's just kind of a crappy picture,
We probably found the same picture.
maybe.
But anyway, they live in a single cave system in Alabama. Well, kind of Alabama. It's the cave system itself spreads through Alabama, Tennessee, and Mississippi.
Pretty good cave system.
It's rather large.
It's under the. It looks like it kind of follows right under the Tennessee River in
Yeah.
some cases, and in some of it.
That cave system would be known as Key Cave.
So it is like the northwest corner of Alabama. So it would be west of Huntsville, and then a little bit into that part where it touches Tennessee and Mississippi.
Yeah. So they did a survey of 120 other caves within that region. Doesn't exist in any of them. It is just found in Key Cave. Hence why it's critically endangered. Because
Yeah,
it has a range of less than 100 square kilometers, an area of occupancy less than 10 square kilometers, uh, and its adult population size is probably less than 250 individuals,
yeah,
as well as water degradation. That it's subject to water degradation, and it is vulnerable to a loss of critical source of organic material, that being bats and bat guano.
yeah. Because the bat guano is what a lot of the like
Cave
the
fish.
cave insects. Okay, well, it helps like some of the fungus that grows in caves,
Yeah,
like
it's
be fertilized.
it's
It's a
really funny that
funky.
bat guano is like the main source of any type of nutrition. Not the actual guano itself, but the nutrients that fall out of the guano then feed fungus, which insects will eat the fungus. Uh,
Fish eat the
and
insects.
then the fish eat the insects, and then nothing really eats the fish in the caves. But that's how that ecosystem works, if you wanted to know. Luckily, the population is considered stable by the IUCN. Uh, it's legitimately only critically endangered because of the one observed site. So there's not exactly.
Well, that's good. I mean, fortunately, it's one of those. It's hard to get there, and fish tend to be a little bit more resilient than like amphibians, like the axolotl,
Yeah.
where since they like breathe through their skin, they usually have a bad time with that.
As of 1983, only 9 specimens were known in collections. In the 1980s, there was estimated to be less than 100 individuals, and no more than 10 cavefish have ever been observed in a single visit to Key Cave. Within the 36 recorded excursions into Key Cave by biologists from 1967 to 1998, a total of 130 Alabama cavefish were observed. This was by Beauchamp and Maiden in 2004. And in 2001, Kuhaja and Maiden indicated the population was relatively stable. As I said earlier, they have a couple of threats, most notably degradation from wastewater, whether it's domestic, industrial, or agricultural, unsuccessful reproduction, so just being infertile, which I'd assume is actually one of the larger problems. If they're that's a small population, and there's probably some type of genetic bottleneck within it.
Yeah, and it said they only breed like once in a year, which for fish is kind of strange.
Yeah,
So, well, I shouldn't say that, but it's for a fish like that where they're not affected so much by like weather changes above ground. Do you think they could go more often?
yeah. And then the other primary threat would be the interference with the bat populations, which indirectly contribute to the food chain, as we discussed a little bit earlier, uh, as well as contamination of groundwater from agricultural operations.
Yeah, those two are probably the biggest concerns for these fish.
Yeah, white nose syndrome and crops.
Yeah, and runoff.
Yeah, crop runoff. As well as the cave crayfish, which outcompetes it.
Yeah, yeah, I did see that. They have a that and the southern cave fish, which
Yes.
is different from the Alabama cave fish. Those they're more numerous and aggressive, so they outcompete them for space and food.
Yes. That is all I have for these guys. I actually talked about them a little bit more than I thought we would,
Yeah.
which is good on us. Alex, I will kick it over to you for our most wanted for the week.
Yes, sir. Our most wanted for this week, since we were talking about some freshwater fish, I went for a freshwater plant. This is the common water hyacinth. I'm trying to find a picture for everyone. Here we go.
Pontideria crassipis.
Yes, there we go. So, the water hyacinth, as you can see in the picture, it is a floating plant. It's got clusters of leaves with kind of spongy stalks, and they have a base of like kind of feathery roots that get into the ground. They are typically connected together by small horizontal stems and they form these very dense rafts on the water and the mud. They have large kind of spike of lavendery blue flowers. They have kind of big rounded glossy leaves, but the reason that they're invasive is very much how they grow. It was the floating water hyacinth was introduced into Florida in the 1880s from South America, um, and it covered more than 120,000 acres of public lakes and navigable rivers by the early 1960s. Um, Fortunately, some intense management efforts from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers have reduced it to approximately 2,000 acres statewide in Florida. Because once you start with how dense this gets, you get it into major like shipping waterways where you're going to have some larger boats. It's just going to bind up and destroy engines, like the props on engines. So as I said, native to South America, originally tropical Brazil, but has become naturalized in a lot of other warm parts of the world, Central America, North America, Africa, India, Asia, Australia, all kinds of that. But because it is has a very aggressive growth rate, um, which is the highest among the highest of any known plant. It is illegal to possess them in some states without a very special permit, which is probably you even need it to transport it if you're going to remove it and destroy it. They can double their size in as little as 2 weeks, and that's by using those runner stems that I talked about. They can produce new plants from those stems as well as through seeds. So it's just ridiculously fast at how much they can grow and why they must be managed. Like I said, they block waterways, limit boat traffic, recreation. There can be a problem with flood control, but the biggest thing is they're going to block out a lot of like sunlight for native plants and animals, so the wildlife really don't um, are impacted by these because that those native plants now can't have access to the sun, and those small like herbaceous water plants are what our native fish and other insects eat, and that's not good. As well as things like they can severely lower dissolved oxygen concentrations because they can, when they die, it deposits about uh, 1 acre of this plant can deposit up to 500 tons of that rotting plant material to the bottom of a waterway, which when that breaks down, uh, all the bacteria and decomposers, as they break that down, they just suck up all the oxygen. And that's how you get things like dead zones in waterways. Actually, this past weekend, I was up in Erie and we were seeing a bunch of, they're called sheep's head, also called like freshwater drum, lying on the beach, like full grown. Like, why are all of these like specific, especially they all were just really a sheep's head. Well, doing some research, found out they are very sensitive to that dissol- uh, decrease in the dissolved oxygen because being summertime, it had some temperature inversions as the so that warmer water that's near the surface that's not as full of dissolved oxygen then cools and moves to the bottom. It kind of chokes out all the fish.
All the sensitive fish.
Yes, yeah, and as well the water hyacinth mats provide an ideal breeding environment for mosquitoes. So we don't want that.
Correct. I did some research from the USGS
Yeah.
Geological Surface. They do a lot of GIS mapping. Uh, there has been 5 confirmed sightings of water hyacinth just in our neck of the woods. We can talk about it off camera, but
Yeah.
we'll move on into our last segment for the day: the Ecology Encyclopedia.
Yes, sir. We got a doozy. I think we said we were gonna maybe cover this.
We did probably within the last couple, somewhere within the last 2 sessions. We said we wanted to cover this because it fit in well
Yes.
with some of our other uh, ecology encyclopedias. So today we're talking about secession. A secession is an event that occurs typically. Uh, there's 2 types of secession. There's primary and secondary secession. Primary secession is whenever a new land mass or
Yeah.
something comes, and for the first time, this is the yeah. Alex pulled up the picture. Basically, you have a new landmass, and then this is the order of things that come and develop on that landmass. So typically, first you have lichens, because they are a hybrid between a moss and a fungus. Correct?
Like more. I think it's like a fungus and almost like an algae.
Sure, that one. But
Yeah, I
they're
forget.
they're able to adapt better to, and they're able to adhere better to a bare rock surface.
Yes. Yeah. The producer. It's a kind of a um, mutual relationship where the producer collects the sunlight, produces um, the food, and the fungus kind of protects it a little bit, gives it a place to stick to, and then over time, as those spread and they die, and then more grow, it
Yeah,
starts to kind of
you're starting to get organic matter as these things die and
yes,
grow and everything like that. Then it allows for the next stage, which would be mosses, uh, because they are sporophytes, so they don't have to use as much energy, and they don't need roots to per se to stick into the soil and grow. They're able to survive with the bare minimum of an organic matter
yes,
below them.
yes. Yeah, so that's like primary succession, which this is something that we would have been seeing at the end of the last ice age as the glaciers receded, because it just left bare rock behind underneath of it. Um, secondary succession is a little different. We'll talk about that here in a minute. We'll get through
Yeah.
the whole list first.
So then after mosses, those things die. A little bit more organic matter comes, so you'll get things with smaller root systems, grasses and weeds, and then this goes on and on and on until you have a large enough layer of organic matter in soil that larger woody species can survive, uh, and they create a climax forest or a mature forest depending on length of time.
Where you're at, yeah, and
Yeah,
length of time, yeah. So this is something, it can take hundreds of
centuries.
years,
Yeah,
yeah, to fully complete. And that's for primary succession. Secondary succession is a little faster. I found a nice picture from the Alabama Cooperative Extension that has some very nice pictures. So let me zoom in a little bit. So secondary succession, you get more a disturbance is usually what causes this. So
typically a
for
forest fire.
yeah, for the longest time, it was something like wildfire, flood, either a severe drought where a lot of the mature plants die, like especially like the woody plants, major storms, where it basically takes, if there's like a mature system, and then just hits the reset button. Wildfire is probably the most dramatic, but because this happens a lot faster than the primary succession, because the soil base is already there. So you very quickly will see things like like the picture shows, like your grasses, your forbs, and then your small woody plants, and then your younger trees that tend to be a little faster growing, more that like that open sunlight a little more. And then as you get into your mature forest, that's when you start seeing things that are more shade tolerant. So you can kind of tell sometimes how old a forest is based on the kind of the ratio of like oaks to maples and some of those more shade tolerant species that grow quickly.
Yeah, so secondary succession kind of just skips like the first three steps.
Yeah, that like lichen moss step.
Yeah, because it has a soil base. Something to note: some of these disturbances that cause secondary succession, it stirs. There's a lot of organic matter that gets put back into the soil in these, so that also helps accelerate the process.
Yeah, and that's the thing. These disturbances aren't always a bad thing, because sometimes in those mature forests, like I said, you may start getting a bit of a monoculture in some cases, because or like the diversity actually drops over time, because you're getting just like those shade tolerant trees that grow faster, but you're not getting some of those more important food trees like the oaks, which are earlier succession trees because they like that full sun a lot more, but they grow slower. So they need some of those disturbances. And there are some plants that are adapted to those disturbances. Like I said, the oaks are a lot more fire resistant than maples, and some because they have a thicker bark. Um, so, and so if a fire isn't too severe, a lot of the oaks will survive, being able to then drop acorns and grow more oaks, while the maples have to get help from somewhere else. Takes a little longer for them to return.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why it says the top thing on the disturbance in this picture is prescribed fire. A lot of forest services will they will purposefully set fires to create a disturbance, because especially in areas where you get a lot of invasive species, and especially like woody invasive species, they're not always as adapted to fire as our local species are, and in a lot of cases actually helps the native species come back faster because all that organic matter and those nutrients are put back into the soil, so anything that survives can readily take it up and use it to just take off.
Right. That is all I have on Succession. Do you have anything else to add, Alex?
That is all I have. I'm sure we can talk a little bit more about it in some cases where like um, such as like out west, like California and areas like that, where like wildfire management and the necessity of wildfire to those ecosystems. But that may be a next week kind
Yeah,
of
for sure.
topic because we don't want to go too long today because we're a
We got
bit on a time
places to
crunch.
be, people to
Yeah,
see.
we both also slept in a little bit, so
Yeah.
we didn't get started as early.
Yeah. But how do we end this like normal? I've been
That
Alex. I've been Alex. This is I've been Tyler. This has been Alex.
yes. Thank you all for watching Life the Complete Story today. Check us out on our social medias, Tyler, if you want to run
Yeah.
through those.
Now available on all podcast systems. Well, not all. Amazon, uh, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all Life the Complete Story. YouTube at Life the Complete Story. Make sure to subscribe, like our videos, short form, and long form content on our YouTube. See our short form content and amazing species highlights on our Instagram page at Life Complete Story, as well as on TikTok. You will get those clips of things that happened in the episode. Typically, I try to get one out before I drop the episode, so it's a little sneak peek. And make sure to send us an email if you have anything else you want to see, anything, new segment ideas that you have for us at lifecompletestory@gmail.com. I think I hit them all.
Facebook at
Facebook at
Life
Life the
Complete.
Complete Story for news articles and things like that that we find in our daily lives that we want to share with you guys.
Yes,
But
sir.
Alex,
That is, I think that's all we have for today. So, as we always say, keep on learning, learn something new. You'll never know what you find interesting. But thank you again. I've been Alex. That has been Tyler. We appreciate you joining us for another episode of Life the Complete Story, and we will see you next time.